All right, guys, what is up? Coach Cheryl here, Fit Body Secrets, where my goal is to bring you guys inspiration, education, motivation, and a ton of action steps to help you guys all on your fitness journey. And I actually just finished my morning session and I am feeling really freaking good. Despite not having good sleep the past couple of days, guys, I'm in like the best place I've been in a very long time. And I want to just start by, before I go into today's episode, just a little rant, a little tangent, I guess, because of where I'm at in my life and where I'm at this weekend. It is the weekend of the Masters qualifiers. And this year, my goal when I ended my last season last year, after I finished up my CrossFit games, was being completely transparent, is I was like, you know what, I want to go for one more year of competing. And I really want to try and push for the open division again. I want to go one more year as an individual, because I feel like in a lot of ways, I kind of haven't ever been able to give, I guess since about 2015 or 16, I haven't been able to give my athletic career the amount of focus that I thought that it deserved and needed. And actually what I found in my quest this year to achieve that goal is that what I actually needed was to take a step back and actually not focus on it so much. And guys, I will be honest with you. I say this all the time to my clients, is that the more we focus on the goal, it seems like the further it gets. And this year, for the first time since before COVID, I am actually making progress again in the gym. I'm actually not, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from myself. I'm very fit, but I've kind of gotten complacent thinking that like, this is as good as it gets. And this year I'm in such a good place with where I'm at athletically, like I'm improving. I'm actually seeing a lot of gains again, that I actually just wanted to take this year. And I said, you know what, like, I don't want to do the Masters qualifiers. I don't want to. I actually want to actually give myself a year of just being able to train and to see what that feels like and to enjoy the process and get really fit without a specific deadline right now in mind. And surely I could have done the workouts and surely would have qualified for semifinals. I have full confidence in myself, but I just felt like that would have taken away from where I'm at right now. And where I'm at right now is where I want to be. And I say that to you guys all because sometimes the reason I'm bringing this up is that, like I said, sometimes we are so focused on where we want to get to that we'll rush things. We'll try and speed things up. And I definitely could have done that. I definitely could have been like, you know what, I'm still going to get fit. I'll be fine. But I didn't want to. I actually wanted to take the longer journey this year. And if I really want to go one more year in the open division, then that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to push for that. And I'm not worried about whether or not I actually achieve that next year or not, but I'm going to actually see what it looks like to have a year where I don't have a reason why I couldn't compete other than a choice. Because I've competed in CrossFit every year. The only year that I didn't compete in it was the year that I was attacked by a dog and was taken out of the season. So why would I not give myself a full year? And if I think back to that year, that was probably the year that I made the most progress. You know, that was the year that I ended up moving to New England and starting this whole thing. So don't be in a rush to get where you want to get to, and know that honestly, it will come if you keep putting in the work and enjoy the process. And I love training. I'm not going to change anything about that. So, but this is actually perfect for today's episode, because today's episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about like travel and taking breaks and things like that, and how sometimes we can be so focused on the goal that we're forgetting about these things that are going to pop up along the way. And I want to talk to you guys a lot about that and hopefully give you guys some tips and strategies that are going to help you guys out there as we are entering into a time when like the kids are going to be out of school and there's going to be a lot more social stuff. We got Memorial Day coming up. We got 4th of July. But guys, I'm going to start by saying that there's always going to be something, right? So it's not summertime. It's not summer breaks. It's going to be the fall, and there's going to be Halloween. There's going to be Christmas. There's going to be Thanksgiving. And then after that, there's going to be Valentine's Day. There's going to be Easter. There's always going to be a reason to celebrate, not to mention whatever time of year you guys celebrate your birthday, your anniversary, your kids' birthdays, and all that stuff, right? So there really is never going to be an opportune time for you to say, all right, for right now, for the next 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, 24 weeks, whatever it is, I'm going to have nothing that pops up on my schedule that I'm going to be able to live in a bubble and focus solely on this goal. It just doesn't happen that way. Life does not happen that way, and nor should it, because at the end of the day, I think one of the things I hear on so many of my check-ins is I had a real struggle this week because it was my mom's birthday, and then it was my birthday, and then I had this party to go to, or I had this struggle this week because of, you know, I'm trying to celebrate my anniversary. Guys, that is not struggle. Like, there is nothing hard about enjoying birthday cake with your mom, or enjoying a drink with your significant other. There is everything difficult about making the decision to say, do I want this or do I want to reach this goal? And they shouldn't come separate of each other. It's just knowing what percentage of weight you want each to have in your life at that moment in time. And it comes down to looking at more than just where you're at in that specific moment, but where you want to be throughout time, right? So looking at myself, as I talked about my CrossFit journal or my CrossFit season this year, is I very easily could have been like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and compete this weekend and I'm going to do these workouts. And I probably would have been fine, right? But I didn't want to be in that headspace right now. That's not where I wanted to have my focus of intensity, of measuring myself and all of that stress that comes along with it. Instead, I'd rather be like, you know what, like, let me keep working on getting stronger. Let me keep working on making sure that my shoulders are healthy, my hips are healthy, and not put this pressure of doing something right now. I made that decision. And the struggle is always in the decision. It's never in the experience. Our circumstances are not the problem. It is how we react to our circumstances and how we perceive our choices that become the problem. That becomes the real struggle. So today's episode is all going to be talking to you guys a little bit about how to navigate things like travel situations, things that come up like social stuff, work stuff, some of it planned, some of it not planned. And I'm going to start by just saying, kind of breaking those two things down in general is, number one, if we are starting to create healthier habits, right? We started a nutrition coaching program. We are doing our own type of a dietary protocol, whatever it might be. We always have to start by looking at the sustainability of it and how long we're going to be doing it and all of those types of things. And actually what we are actually trying to learn from it. So with what I teach, we base everything on keeping an accurate food journal to assess changes in biofeedback, how we're feeling, making sure that a person's holding themselves accountable to how much they're eating, and allowing us to address and tweak those things based on how well a person is feeling, fueled by those foods and what their goals might be. So if they're progressing on their goals or not. And I'm sorry, my hips are starting to bother me. That's why I'm moving around a little bit. My early morning session had lots of heavy back squats. But anyways, so we're trying to assess is if their nutrition is actually working to help them achieve their goals and if they're actually feeling good. It also allows them that flexibility of being able to make choices as to what they want. So there is no restriction on my dietary protocols. It is all about making sure they're getting in enough nutrients, AKA a lot of whole foods, a lot of healthy stuff, but also getting in the foods that they actually enjoy too. So it's not me telling them eat this and that. It's saying, hey, these are better choices, but sometimes have that too. So it starts with keeping that food journal and then also looking at like where we're at, right? So what are we trying to achieve and all those types of things. Now, if you are doing that, the other thing that I usually will have people do is I always recommend starting to create kind of like an ice list or an ice backup plan in case of an emergency, right? So knowing how to troubleshoot things and how to kind of overcome those last minute changes in your schedule, like knowing how to make the best choices. And it all comes down to kind of honestly just being a little bit more mindful versus impulsive, and instead of just kind of having a very emotional reaction or an impulse decision, to actually be able to be a little bit more thoughtful in things. I think people talk a lot about mindful eating and intuitive eating. It really should be like mindful decisions around food and mindful or intuitive decisions around food rather than just doing what feels good in the moment. I think that there's a huge difference between that. And I do full-heartedly believe in mindful thoughtfulness in terms of mindful thinking or mindful decision-making when it comes to your food choices. And that's where this travel topic really had to come down to me. So let's just start by talking about, because I had kind of written down a couple of different things, the travel situation. So this is a big one as we're going into the summertime. And these things can kind of also, you can look at this in like a long-term travel situation, like you're going to be gone for 5 to 7 days, 10 to 14 days, or even if it's just a quick getaway in the weekend. So there's some things that you want to consider is, one, how long you're going to be away from your house. Are you going to be missing out on a lot of your normal training? What is going to be like, what is the reason for the travel? Is it for fun and vacation? Or is it for more so like a work-related trip and all those types of things? Because all those things are going to matter, because maybe you have a lot of travel plans lined up, but maybe like 2 or 3 of them are like work related, but then you have 1 or 2 that are social or family related. You might want to be a little bit more flexible with your nutrition to obviously allow yourself kind of like a break from what you're thinking about, which is that AKA goal, for those times with your family, but actually staying dialed in more so on the times with your work trip and things like that. And this is where it all comes down to a little bit of pre-planning. So number one, here's the tip I'm going to give you guys. This goes for whether or not you are traveling for a couple of days, or if you're traveling for a couple of weeks, or if you have a lot of multiple trips lined up, is you have to have a plan. You cannot just be looking at the day. So if you're trying to achieve a goal, AKA you want to lose 20 pounds, and you're not looking ahead at your schedule when you're making a choice to indulge or not indulge, you're actually doing yourself a disservice, because guess what? Maybe what you're having right now isn't what you really want. What you really want is what's coming up in 2 weeks, but you're making the decision now without thinking about that decision there. Whereas if you make the decision to say, hey, I'm going to hold off because I have this big trip planned and I'm going to be really dialed in up until that trip. So it all comes down to starting with number one, with looking ahead. Like, where are we at in our map of our journey, and where do we need to actually build in breaks? And this is also where my clients know that we build in diet breaks. You guys are going to get some times built in where I'm like, hey, every week on my check-ins, I normally will ask a person, is like, do you have any social things coming up this weekend? Because that's usually going to spike me if they're like, yeah, I've got like a birthday planning party here. I'm like, okay, great. Like, this is going to be your celebration. So like, don't stress about it. Like, you have a birthday party, then next weekend you're going to be dialed in. No big deal. And when I say dialed in, there's no restriction on that. It's just meaning that, like, when we're not dialed in, we're probably not really thinking about the goal we're trying to achieve. We're thinking about the goal of enjoying that experience. And there's two different things. They just go hand in hand together. It's just knowing that when we're dialing in on the experience, I'm not hung up on the expectation that I'm going to lose weight the next day, or I'm going to be feeling amazing the next day. I might sacrifice some of those things so that I can actually enjoy a little bit of alcohol or enjoy a little bit of food that might not make me feel the best the next day, because my goal at that point is like, I just want to have fun and live my life that night. And then I'm going to get back to what I was doing beforehand. So always have a plan. Look ahead. Sometimes you might not have a plan, but guess what? That means that the next time a situation comes up, you're going to have to also be mindful and be like, I just had a pretty indulgent meal 2 nights ago, so I'm going to be a little bit cleaner tonight because I know that I want to keep going on my goals. And when I say cleaner, once again, I know I'm using words, terminology that can sometimes get a really bad rap. I'm not saying clean eating, like no good foods. It's just saying that maybe you had like pizza and ice cream on Tuesday night. If you're presented with now burgers and fries on Thursday night, you might be like, I'm going to choose the grilled chicken salad tonight instead. So that's what I mean by actually just making a better decision based on a previous decision that you made. So you're always thinking about reflection on behind you, and then what's coming up ahead, and then you're staying present in that moment. So those are my main tips for those of you guys out there when it comes to actually thinking about what your goals might be right now, and how to navigate travel and things like that. Now, as I already mentioned, some things is you're going to want to decide is if it's and this is where I'm going to kind of go into some tips. So let's just say you're traveling and you're traveling for work. All right. Your goal at that point is like, I really don't really want to travel. I have to travel. Or maybe it is kind of a fun thing. You might have 1 or 2 social dinners. But for the most part, I always remind people that just because you might have travel doesn't mean that your whole day has to be a vacation from your plan. And that's why, honestly, tracking food and keeping tabs of things can actually be food freedom, because now you can bring that with you anywhere. You can look up nutrition facts anywhere. Are you going to always be able to find the restaurant you're looking for? No, but you can likely find something similar. So that gives you a little bit of flexibility to be able to travel and still do the things that you want to do, but still kind of work towards the goals that you have for yourself. So if you are traveling and you're trying to stay kind of dialed in, you're really trying to work on this goal, and this is just kind of like something that you have to do while you're in the process of that, then I do recommend staying on track with tracking food, making sure that you're doing a good job with that. When it comes to tracking, if you are macro counting, and I say that with like a macro counting thing, because I right now I'm on this thing right now. I really think that macro counting is getting out of control. And I'm going to actually make another episode where I just talk about that, because it's a tangent right now that I want to go off on. But if you are keeping tabs of like your protein, carbs, and fats, which you should be at some level, just making sure that you're getting in enough protein, and then watching overall calorie budget. That's going to keep you kind of in your best place. If your training isn't going to be super priority that time anyways, you're not going to have any changes really that's going to, affect your workouts or anything like that. So just trying to stay as consistent as you can with your normal meal timing and kind of like the structure of what that looks like. So making sure that you're still getting a protein, carb, and a fat in. Using the basics and the foundation of what you use to build your meals at home to build them on the road. Now, if the vacation trip is built around something, or maybe it is a trip that you actually are wanting to enjoy a little bit more, guys, this is not like when you guys are taking a vacation, it's not a bad thing. If you are deciding to enjoy yourself on a vacation, that's not a bad thing. You should be able to do those things. Now, the problem I find is that people tend to think that a vacation is like literally like all the wheels roll off. It's like this literally like a party of like, they've got to have everything in sight. They've got to be so overindulgent that they feel guilty for 2 weeks afterwards. That is where I think that going back to what I mentioned before about intuitive and mindful decisions around food can be really helpful for you guys, because a vacation should be a time when you are able to relax and enjoy yourself. However, it should also be rejuvenating and fulfilling in an area that you should come back kind of motivated and feeling really good. And oftentimes people come back from vacation feeling like shit. And, there's a lot of things that play a factor in that. One is obviously travel in general can be stressful, changes in time domains or time zones and things like that. But also a lot of times people's food decisions are built around just gluttony. And there is a huge difference between being able to enjoy yourself on a vacation and just being gluttonous because you can. And I think that the gluttonous mindset, and I hate that word actually, but I think it comes down to people just really being so freaking strict and rigid with themselves when they're at home, that's like, and that's not just with their food, that's with everything in life, that they're always just like filling everybody else's cups. They're doing all this stuff for everybody else. And they're just like always like stressed out and like one thing to the next thing. And their diet's this and they're working. And then they go on vacation like, I don't want to do any of that shit. And food becomes the escape from all that. Alcohol becomes the escape from all that. And that's where I think that dialing in home life will make your vacations much better, much more enjoyable. Now you can actually enjoy yourself a little bit and not feel like you just blew everything, and some people honestly are very hard on themselves. They'll have like a couple extra drinks or some French fries and suddenly they think they're binging. Not the case either. So, when it comes down to it all, guys, vacations, travel, all that stuff is going to be part of your life. So waiting for the perfect time to like be spot on perfect is never going to work. You're going to be more successful is if there is almost a gray line between your vacation and your home. And that's what maintenance looks like, which is the other thing that I want to talk to you guys a little bit about is that if you are traveling and you're traveling for the sake of fun and enjoyment, you should not be trying to be in a calorie deficit that week. It's not about that. Most people are under eating in general, just by nature of like, we're too busy to eat, yada, 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 which often causes overeating. So if you are really dialed in, which is going to be, this is where I'm going to, is you guys, if you guys are dialed in and you are like, I've been working my ass off and I'm losing weight, I'm doing this and this, that vacation can be part of your journey. If you're like, all right, like as a coach, normally I'll recommend a person be on maintenance calories that week. Like, don't even stress about it. Let's bring calories up. Let's get you out of the deficit. Let's get you like, now they actually are like, oh, wow, I can eat all this food. And they usually don't believe that they're not going to gain weight, but usually that gives them freedom. Usually they're like, I can have whatever I want. It still fits a day. Now food tracking isn't like, I have to track my food. No, it's, I get to track my food because now I can actually see all this I can eat and not feel bad about it. There's no guilt. So, and that's kind of where I usually will recommend like a little bit of usually like calorie cycling, where a person might be going from a calorie deficit. They've been really dialed in. They've made a lot of progress. And they're taking a week of just letting their body recover. That can be so good if planned and right. Once again, though, we don't want to come back feeling worse. We want to come back feeling good, where we're just picking up where we left off. We're not kind of cutting all the junk out again and trying to get back on track. We're literally just picking up where we left off. And I say this all the time to my clients, like, listen, you wouldn't go to work Monday through Friday and then go off on the weekend for, your weekend and enjoy your weekend and say, I've got to get back on track on Monday at work. No, you just like whatever assignments you've had left on Friday afternoon are likely there for you on Monday morning, or you're starting Monday just like you started the last Monday. Nothing else changes. The only time you would actually really change things if you're finding that every week you're trying to progress on something and you're kind of stuck at the exact same point, which also is very relevant to people's nutrition, because oftentimes people are super quote unquote clean all week, and then the weekend comes and they're doing whatever they want, and then they're back on track again on Monday, and they can't figure out why they are slowly creeping up in weight. That's usually why. So so the last thing that I'm just going to kind of talk about, guys, is why I brought this up is I think that traveling, I think busy times, I think experiencing these things while you're in a fat loss phase is super beneficial for those of you guys out there that are looking for sustainability with your plan. Because if you are experiencing these things while you're working with a coach or while you're working on your fat loss journey, you are going to find it a lot easier to maintain your results post that experience, because you're getting comfortable doing these things. And it's something that when I started my very first nutrition journey when I was 19 years old, I was scared of. Like, I was so afraid of what it would look like to be off my plan, that I actually kept under eating. So I would go on vacation. I was like scared to eat because I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to eat. I just worked my ass off to lose 40 pounds. Like, why was I going to want to eat this crap and put it back on? So it's something that I really do think that tracking has become freedom for me in that aspect of things. So that's it, guys. I think that the main thing that I want you guys to get out of this is knowing that, number one, there's never going to be a perfect time. There's always going to be a situation that comes up. Number two is choosing whether or not your goal or priority is to enjoy the vacation because it's like your vacation, or if it's just like it's travel and you have to put up with it, in which case you can make the decision. And as I'm ending on today's episode, there's a couple of things that I want to end on with those two things in mind. Is number one is you are in control of your decisions. Never let anybody else around you make you feel guilty about saying no to what everybody else is indulging in, because you are working on a goal and you feel really good and confident about that. There is nothing to be ashamed of. That is not obsessive. That is you being passionate about what you're doing. And maybe you actually enjoy it. I have no problem packing my own food because I enjoy eating what I do. You can be that same person. You don't have to. Now, if you want to say yes and you want to enjoy the food, that is also okay. But you have to make sure that you are comfortable in whatever decision you make, knowing that nobody else deserves to make you feel a certain way. And it doesn't matter what they think. You are in complete control of that. So don't let anybody else make you feel guilty. And then the last thing that I'm going to end on here is, and I was going to make an Instagram reel about this, but now I just feel like it's going to be too hard to talk about in a minute, is we are all going to have situations that pop up, whether it's emergency situations, whether it's stress at work, whether it's, things not going our way, whether it's an unplanned vacation, an unplanned dinner. We can all make excuses, right? So we can all have the exact same thing. And I say this to somebody, do you think that lean people don't have birthdays and celebrations and things like that? Absolutely they do. Okay. We can all have a million excuses why we don't do something. This came up, this came up, this came up, this happened, and then this happened. We are always going to have a way to find a reason why something can't be. That's why we don't do it, because there was a reason why we didn't do it for the most part. If we don't do something that we say we're going to do, there was a reason why we didn't do it. And most of them are valid. Most of them we can say, yep, that's a true statement. Yep, that's a true statement. Like if I go for a run and it's raining outside, that is a true statement that I probably am not going to go running because it's raining outside. However, on the flip side of that is the person that, rather than sitting there and justifying the excuse as to why they didn't do it, finds the solution. Okay. And those are the two types of people. And one type of person is going to get results, and the other one is going to continue to justify why they're not getting results. And you can choose who you want to be. Do you want to be the person that's justifying why you're not getting the results, or you want to be the person that is finding the solution? And I'm going to be honest, I often can give you guys a million solutions, but it doesn't matter, because that person has to say, you know what, that's going to be hard, but you're right, I'm going to do that. Because oftentimes finding the solution in chaos is not always easy to see, nor is it easy to apply, because we are always going to go to what is comfortable. For instance, if I go into that rain situation, it's going to be really uncomfortable to run in the rain. I can make a decision. I can say, I'm not going to run right now. I'm going to wait till later. It might be 6 p.m. at night, and that means I'm running at 8 o'clock at night. I can make that decision. I can say I'm going to make it up in the morning. I can say I'm going to go to a treadmill instead. Or I can say, I'm just not going to run. I can say I'm going to do a different workout. I can find a bunch of different excuses to the fact that I can't run in the rain to get my workout in, but I can also find a reason to justify why I didn't work out. I didn't work out because it's raining outside, or I couldn't run because it's raining outside, so I did burpees in my house. Not always going to be easy to trade a nice 30-minute run for maybe it's 10 minutes of burpees. Not always the easiest thing to do. but it is possible. So if you want to achieve goals, you want to achieve success, whatever it is, whether it's nutrition related, whether it's training related, you are going to have to realize that justifying your excuses are never going to get you anywhere. So if you are somebody that is using travel, work, vacations, parties, all that stuff as an excuse to why you can't stay on track with your nutrition, you are justifying the problem. You are not finding the solution to the problem. And the solution oftentimes might actually be telling yourself you don't have to be perfect, that you don't have to live your life in a cookie cutter meal plan, that sometimes flexibility, aka flexible dieting, can be your best friend. You still have to practice discipline and self-control, but it doesn't mean that you can't find a solution. That's all I got, guys. Hope you all have a great week.